How's it going, aliens? My name's Ialien. Today I'm back on another Identity 5 video, and today's video is my updated Survivor tier list for Season 20. I recently did an updated Hunter tier list a couple weeks ago, so if you haven't seen that one, make sure to check it out. But I haven't done a new Survivor tier list in over a year, so it was definitely time for a new one. Before we get into the tier list, let's have a word from our sponsor. Traffic Puzzle is a free-to-play mobile game where cars, match 3, and puzzles meet. An evil force has made a massive mess on the streets, and there's only one person who can clear them: you. You must take your match 3 puzzle solving skills to the next level and combine them with your quick thinking to save the city. Traffic Puzzle features adorable characters and challenging puzzles. Prepare to pick up your brain to remove cars and obstacles from the levels in the most efficient way. Traffic Puzzle lets you clear the roads by matching 3 cars of the same color. It allows you to enjoy an ever-growing collection of unique levels, and it offers you new, frequent events with different, fresh gameplay mechanics. What are you waiting for? Go click the link in the description below, or go scan the QR code on the screen right now. Every download helps the channel so much. Go download Traffic Puzzle for free today. Okay, so first I'll explain how the tier list works. There are 5 tiers: B- tier, B+ tier, A- tier, A+ tier, and S tier. This is a little different from my Hunter tier list if you've seen it. And this is simply because survivors are stronger than hunters. So there's a lot more viable survivors than there are hunters. Like, I think in my Hunter tier list I have a C tier and a D tier. Maybe a F tier, I don't remember. But in this tier list, the lowest I go is B- tier. And if you remember, B tier and above is viable survivors, tournament viable survivors. Anything below B tier is borderline viable, but they're hard to play in tournament. So there's only one tier of survivors that fit into this. B+ is just viable, A- is pretty strong, A+ is almost meta, and then S tier are the absolute best survivors in the game. Before I get into the tier list, my Discord server will be in the pinned comment below, as well as in the description below as always. So if you haven't joined, make sure to go click that link, and please like and subscribe. So let's start off at B- tier. This Survivor tier list was actually pretty hard to do because there's so many good survivors that it's hard to rank them. So if you see a bunch of survivors in A- tier, A+ tier, and you see, because the tier list does go from left to right, best to worst, and you see, oh, this survivor is ahead of this one, it's all personal preference at the end of the day, because all of these survivors are strong. So in sometimes against certain hunters, this survivor is stronger than this survivor. So it's not, don't pay too much attention to the specific order more than just the tiers they are in. So I will try to make this shorter, than an hour, hopefully. So let's start off with B- tier. My first survivor in B- tier is Thief. He is probably the worst survivor in the game. He can kite, he's a decent kiter, but unfortunately his flashlight does get countered by most hunters, and a lot of hunters can moonwalk Thief. Hunters like Sculptor, Bloody Queen, Bonbon, Spider, etc. They can hold their skill to moonwalk Thief. Other hunters that get distance quickly, like Clown, and have just any hunters that have a dashing skill, can make up the distance between them and Thief very quickly. Or also hunters that have projectiles, like Ripper, also Spider, Sculptor, Bonbon. Projectiles really hurt Thief too, because you can just hit them from afar. So that's why Thief is probably the worst survivor in the game. Next up, we have Lawyer. If I can put him above. Lawyer is also not bad. He can't get terror shocked. He doesn't have any kiting debuffs. He's a pretty quick decoder. So he's basically just a decoder with no kiting debuffs. So he's not even a bad survivor, which is what you're going to see. There's no bad survivor in this game. There's no bad character in this game. He's just not as good as some other survivors, is really all I can say about Lawyer. But he's really not bad. He can't get terror shock, so that's good for rescuing. Decent kiter. He has a veterans. I think he has a veterans bonus. And he doesn't have any debuffs. He only has decoding buffs. And he can see the hunter, which lets him rotate the hunter very well. So all in all, he's a pretty decent character. Not like how he was back in, Season 2 and Season 3, back when he was bad. A lot of these characters have been buffed so many times, like Lawyer, Thief, etc., that they aren't bad anymore. They're just not as good as the best. Next, we have Mind's Eye. She also is not bad. She can see the hunter. She can see the hunter through walls. She can obviously see the hunter from afar with the cane. She decodes very fast. Mind's Eye plus accelerated decoding is insanely fast decoding. The only issue with Mind's Eye is her kiting is so bad that really it's going to be hard to kite, but it is doable. If it's a hunter that you can tight kite or loop, then Mind's Eye is actually really good because she can see the hunter through the wall. She can slow their interaction speed, and she can play around pallets. If it's a hunter that you can't tight kite, that's where it gets harder for Mind's Eye, and the best bet you can do then is just take your Broken Window speed boost, take your Priestess support, etc., and just get distance. But all in all, Mind's Eye is not terrible either. You actually see her used a bit in tournament, and decoding comps that you see, like Mechanic, Postman, Mind's Eye together with like a mercenary, for example, against hunters like Geisha. Just any hunters like Geisha or Bloody Queen that may not have the best camping. So you can cipher rush them by going so many decoders. And also Mind's Eye is good because she can tight kite a Geisha, use pallets. So against hunters like Geisha and similar hunters, those decoding comps actually do have a lot of success because there's not much the hunter can do. So she's really not bad. The next survivor we have is Lucky Guy. Once again, Lucky Guy is not bad. He has no debuffs. He can now carry 2 items at once. He doesn't even have to look in a chest to get one item. Then he can look in a chest for another item. He can, kite pretty decently because if you get a football, if you get a flare gun, if it's a broken will or something, Bloody Queen, you get a perfume, you'll be able to kite. Now you have 2 chances early in the game to get what you want because you can use the chest and you have your wish at the start of the game. There's no debuffs. Lucky Guy's pretty decent. He's just not as good as these survivors. He's a jack of all trades, master of none, which if you see my other tier list, you would know usually that's not what this game prefers. This game really prefers specialized characters that are really good at what they do, and that's usually what wins out. But he's not bad. Next in B- tier we have Gardener. Once again, for the millionth time, Gardener is not bad whatsoever. She has no debuffs. She's a pretty good kiter. She's a great kiter early game with the 50-second shield. She can recharge the shield, which makes her a good kiter, especially against Bloody Queen, for example, and similar hunters. Spider, she's good against those hunters. If you're really skilled with Gardener and you can time out the shield, then she's pretty strong. She's a good rescuer because she takes the shield and then you can't get Terror Shocked, you can't get stuff. So all in all, Gardener is a pretty good survivor with no debuffs. Next in B- tier is Magician. Magician is also not bad. He has no debuffs anymore because he cannot get Terror Shocked on an illusion. He also does not have a rescue debuff anymore. So once again, he's just a good kiter with not much else. Similar to maybe Gardener, for example. Similar to Lawyer, how Lawyers are good decoder with not much else. Magicians is just a good kiter with not much else. He's not bad. He's good against Bloody Queen. He's good against Clown. Some other hunters he's good against. Feaster, etc. So he's not bad. It's just better characters to use. Kiters that get distance is really the meta more than kiters that can more loop, because Magician is more specialized for looping than he is getting distance. His speed boost on illusion can help you get distance though, so that's pretty nice as well. Next we have Novelist in B- tier. He doesn't have debuffs. He has decent support because he gives speed boost to the kiter. He's a decent kiter himself. He's just not a great kiter, and that's why Novelist is really just a B- tier survivor. He's not bad at all. He's pretty decent, and he's a fun survivor to play for sure. So if you want to play Novelist, there's nothing stopping you. Next, let's move on to B+ tier survivors. These survivors just make the cut of being tournament viable. And I do want to make sure to say, like I said, my Hunter tier list is all characters are viable in rank at any tier. You can play whatever character you want, no matter if you're at peak tier or tier 1. And that goes for hunters and survivors. The only difference is how hard it will be to win, or maybe how high or how low your win rate will be. But at the end of the day, you can play any character you want in rank, and you can get to the highest tier. The first character in B+ tier is Doctor. I think. Yeah, I guess Doctor would be... Actually, the first character in B+ tier instead would be First Officer. First Officer has no debuffs. He has debuffs, of course, because he's a rescuer, like decoding speed, but it's very normal debuffs. It's not like a negative 30% decoding. He's a pretty good rescuer because he usually will not get stuffed on the rescue, and he gets a speed boost on the watch, and he also is a character that will not die early game because he has a very strong tool. So all in all, First Officer is a good rescuer. There's nothing wrong with using him. It's just there's better rescuers to use. Next, we have Explorer. Explorer used to be very meta. You don't see him as much anymore. And the only reason for that is Explorer is risky. He's a winning type of character, but he's just risky because as Explorer, if you do get found, if you get a bad spawn that you can't hide from, and you get found, you will die, in like 20 seconds. And then that really hurts the pace of the game for survivors. But he's a really strong character. He can hide, he can make rescues, he counters hunters like Sculptor. He's a very good decoder. So Explorer's a really strong character. It's just he's a riskier character to play, similar to maybe Mind's Eye, is because if these decoders do get found early, it does hurt the pace of the game, and it almost makes it a guaranteed tie at worst for the hunter. Next, in B+ tier, I will put Doctor. But this Doctor's hard because Doctor is also a really strong character. She's a good kiter. She's a good support. She destroys hunters like Photographer and Mad Eyes and the new hunter that's coming out. So against some hunters, Doctor can be S tier, A plus tier, A minus tier. But probably against the lowest of the low, like Sculptor, maybe she's like B plus tier. But even against Chip Hunter, she does get a speed boost now, which helps her, especially against Bonbon. If you have a Seer, she's good against Sculptor. So Doctor is not bad. Blink does counter her. But all in all, Doctor's a pretty good character. Next, let's move on to A minus tier. I am making decent time so far, so that's good. The first survivor in A minus tier is Wildling. Wildling, similar to Explorer, used to be really, really meta about a year ago. He was probably A plus tier. And he's still pretty good, but they did nerf Wildling because he was really broken back then. They nerfed the boar and the time for it. Every time you get on it, it's lesser time. But all in all, Wildling is still really good. His decoding debuff is not awful because it's the same as forward. You can't kill him early game. He's a good rescuer. He can harass. He can support. Wildling is really strong. Probably the only issue with Wildling in this meta is probably Breaking Will, because Breaking Will does counter Wildling really hard. That's probably the only reason he's this low, is because you do see so many Breaking Wills and Wildling is not good against him. The next survivor in A minus tier is Barmaid. Barmaid is also really strong against hunters like Dreamwitch. She's probably like S tier. Barmaid's really strong. They did buff her, which helps her a lot. The speed boost is nice for Barmaid. She's a really strong kiter. She's a good support. And if you want to use Barmaid against practically any hunter, go for it. Especially if you have a Seer, then Barmaid's definitely A plus tierish. Even with the owl being shorter, she's still really strong. But yeah, Barmaid's one of those characters that if you want to use her and if you're good at kiting, use her. There's no reason not to. And all in all, she's a strong character. It's just there's kiters that get more distance than her because she only has a speed boost, while there's other kiters that just are better at getting distance. And that's why you would favor those characters over Barmaid. And another thing is she's not the best against Breaking Will. Same as Wildling, and with so many Breaking Wills, that's why these characters are at the bottom of A minus tier. But against other meta hunters like Dreamwitch, Sculptor for Wildling, they're at the top of A minus tier. So that's why I say don't really pay too much attention to the rankings, more of the tiers more than anything, because the rankings just depend on the hunter you're facing and the meta the game is currently in. The next survivor in A minus tier is Perfumer. Perfumer is also a pretty strong character. Back in the day, she used to be S tier. If you used to play back in season 1 to like season 8. And she's kind of dropped off lower and lower. You definitely see a lot less Perfumer nowadays because of Sculptor and Bonbon and Dreamwitch. She's not good against those hunters. But Perfumer is still really good against most hunters. And Breaking Will, she's very strong against. So that definitely helps her. And Perfumer with the Seer is also probably A plus tier. Perfumer on maps that have double stories, like Lakeside, Moonlit, Eversleeping, probably A plus tier. She can even kite Sculptors on those types of maps. Give her a double story, a Seer Owl, she can definitely kite a Sculptor there. So Perfumer is really strong kiter. She's a good rescuer. She just doesn't give you any support really, and her decoding is good. But since she's not really giving you much support, you'd rather use a kiter that gives you more support, or you'd rather use a support that gives you kiting more than you would want to just use a kiter that can rescue. The next survivor in A- tier is Painter. Painter is also really strong. One of the best things about Painter is his chair time. The fact that there's no before half, over half for Painter really, really does help him. That's really strong because it makes him really good for ties, because you always get a guaranteed 100% chair, which really hurts the pace of the hunter game and really helps the survivor's pace for a tie. He's also good for wins because of his chair time, and he's a really solid kiter because his paintings give him basically a 60 to 70 second kite always, and he's good against sculptor, he's good against bonbon, etc. So Painter is definitely a really strong kiter. He just doesn't give you much support, which is why he's in A- tier. For our next survivor in A- tier, we have Cowboy. Cowboy is a really strong kiter. He's really good against Bonbon. He's good against Sculptor. He's kind of good against Bloody Queen. He's pretty good against Breaking Will. So he can kite really most hunters. He also has decent harassment. It's not broken like it was before. But if you are far away from a chair, a Cowboy can definitely, force a struggle out. And sometimes can lasso you from balloon. His harassment is probably similar to Prospector, in terms of it's not forward, it's not great, but it's not non-existent either. It is an option, but his primary tool, his primary use of the lasso is to kite, and it's a really good kiting tool. He gets a lot of distance, which is the meta. So that's why Cowboy is actually pretty good in this meta, because he gets distance, he gets speed from the lasso, etc. The next survivor in A- tier is Prospector. Prospector is kind of underrated, not in terms of usage, because he's one of the most popular survivors in the game. There's a lot of Northern fans, a lot of Prospector fans, but just in terms of his usage rate in tournaments, I would say is kind of lower than I would expect, because I think Prospector is really, really strong, and he can kite really most hunters. He can sort of kite Dreamwitch, he can sort of kite Poland, he can sort of kite every hunter. Sculptor, he's pretty good against Bonbon, he's good against Geisha, every hunter except for Bloody Queen. If you're a skilled Prospector, you have a good spawn, etc., he can actually kite. He has pretty good support. He has decent harassment, and if you make that rescue, if you come after a rescue, he can just spam 3 magnets, and that's basically like a flare gun. He basically has a flare gun that recharges on a rescue. He's just really, really versatile. He's a quick decoder. He has normal decoding speed, but he has a lot more calibrations, which makes him a quick decoder. The speed boost he gets helps in his kite. He has a rechargeable skill, which is nice. Prospector is a really strong survivor. Always thought that. I still do. And he's definitely deserving of A- tier. Next we have female Dancer. Dancer is another really, really strong survivor, and a really, really toxic survivor to face as Hunter. The fact that she can pick up the music boxes makes her very versatile, because she's a quick decoder, similar to Prospector. Only she's even quicker, because she can put fast music boxes down and she decodes pretty fast, especially under accelerated decoding. And now you can do that, and then you can pick them up and then carry them to the next cipher. Her slow boxes makes her a really good kiter, and she's even a pretty good support character because slow boxes do not affect survivors and fast boxes do not affect hunters. So if a survivor goes into one of those boxes, it makes them better. It gives them a kiting advantage. So she's even a good support. She's really versatile and really good, and definitely one of the more toxic characters. She's pretty good against Dreamwitch. She's really good against Breaking Will. She's pretty good against Sculptor, Bonbon. She's really good against Geisha. And she's not good against Bloody Queen, but most kiters are not. But all in all, Dancer is a really strong survivor that, once again, in my opinion, is really underrated. Not in terms of popularity. There's a lot of Dancer players, but in terms of tournament usage rate, I would expect her to get played more than she does. But characters like this, all of these characters, get played a lot less than they would have a year ago or a year and a half ago. And the reason for that, the reason why they're A- tier, not A+ tier, is not because they're weaker. In fact, they're actually stronger. A lot of them, they've gotten buffs. It's simply just because this game is inflated with so many survivors. The developers have inflated this game of, they've had this goal of just making every single survivor good. And props to them, they're pretty close to doing so. But it also really hurts this meta, especially when you can only use 4 survivors in a match. When are you ever going to see these characters get used? So that's the only reason they don't get used more in tournament, but they're definitely really strong. The next survivor A- tier is Prisoner. Prisoner is a really good decoder, but his decoding is actually a really good support at the same time. He has decent kiting, better than probably like Lawyer's kiting, because of that stun he gets is actually can be strong depending on the circumstance. Sometimes it doesn't really do much, but other times it can save you. It can save you from getting hit. It can get you to a pallet. So Prisoner is really strong. He was used a lot in tournaments probably 6-7 months ago. He probably was top of A+ tier, and he still is really strong. He's good against basically every hunter. The only reason he's not used as much, which is why he's now A- tier, is because Postman kind of replaced him in that decoder that can kite role, that like decoder that can support and kite. Postman is kind of Prisoner, but just better usually in most circumstances. So that's the only reason Prisoner is not used more. But once again, he's really, really strong. Next, we have Enchantress, which is fun to see because she has been really low for a long time now. When she first came out, she was S tier, A+ tier, but for a long time she's been bad. But they recently did buff Enchantress, and that buff was really big. Her gaining stacks faster, her range of gaining stacks being bigger. It really helped Enchantress's early game out, which is where she struggled. It took her too long to gain a stack that you almost always got hit before you gain one. But now, a good Enchantress can usually gain a stack before getting hit. And then you can just build upon the stacks. It builds on each other, and then you can do a really good kite. Enchantress is also a really good rebound kiter, because if you don't use the stacks, she always is going to have a triple stack, like a mini flare gun, whenever she gets rescued. So Enchantress is really strong. She can support, she can harass really well, and she's really annoying because her harassment is hard to deal with as a hunter. So she's a really versatile survivor that's really strong. She's good against Sculptor. She's good against Geisha. She's pretty good against Breaking Will. She's not good against Dream Witch or Bloody Queen. But besides those two, she's strong against basically every other hunter. She's broken against Bonbon. So Enchantress is definitely a really strong survivor. And the buff did do a lot. Next in A- tier, we have another recently buffed survivor. Embalmer is really good. He's really strong. He's always been really strong for ties. He still is really good for ties. But now that he has that protective shield when he embalms, it just makes him even better. You see a lot of Embalmer nowadays in tournaments. Because with the Embalmer and team, it really is hard to win as a hunter. Because you can't chase him. Because a chase against him is almost always going to result in a tie. And if you get kited, you'll lose. And he also forces you a lot of the time to bring teleport. Because him dying is like a priestess super portal. So Embalmer is really, really strong. He's really, to be honest, he's actually A+ tier, I would say. But you will see him a lot this Koa. I will say that. Embalmer is a strong survivor. So we already started off A+ tier, funny enough. Next survivor in A+ tier is Coordinator. There's not much to say about Coordinator. She has been so good for so long, ever since Season 1 to now. Coordinator has always been very good. She's one of the most balanced survivors in the game. She's a good kiter. She's a good rescuer. She can use her skill for support. She's pretty decent. She's not broken against really any hunter, but she can kite really any hunter. So Cord is definitely really strong. The next survivor in A+ tier I have is Gravekeeper. Gravekeeper is one of the best rescuers in the game. And the only thing that really separates Gravekeeper from First Officer is really just the meta hunters you face. So when you're facing Breaking Will, facing Dream Witch, you're facing Bloody Queen, Gravekeeper is just better against those hunters than First Officer is. Breaking Will counters First Officer, while Gravekeeper counters Breaking Will. Dream Witch counters First Officer, while Gravekeeper counters Dream Witch. So that's just why he's really strong, is because he's good against the meta hunters. And he's still pretty decent against someone like Sculptor, for example. So Geisha, he's really good against. Axe Boy. So he's one of the better rescuers in the game. And the only reason he's so high is just the hunters he counters just so happens to be the meta hunters. While a lot of the hunters First Officer counter aren't as meta. Probably except for like Sculptor, who First Officer does counter. The next survivor in A+ tier I would have is Postman. Postman is really good. He's used a lot. I'm personally not the biggest fan of Postman, funny enough. Back when Postman was not used a lot, I actually always said on my tier list, you can go back, that he was one of the most underrated survivors in the game. And I've always thought Postman was really underrated and that his support was really useful. And he's a good kiter too with his dog. I think Postman's really balanced, really good character. He's a good decoder. I just think he gets used a little bit more than I would use him. I don't think he's like a top of the A+ tier type character, but he's definitely a really good one. It's just my only issue with Postman is against hunters like Sculptor, against hunters like Breaking Will. He's known for countering those hunters, But really, those hunters can kill him in about 50 seconds, about 60 seconds. So from Postman, you're never really getting, if he gets chased first, you're never really going to get a winning kite unless he just has a really good spot and he gets really good support. But most of the time, you aren't going to kite those hunters for wins if the hunter you're facing is really good. But despite that, Postman is deserving of this tier. He's just a good decoder, a good support, and a good kiter all in one, which makes him usable against really any hunter at any time. And that's why he's used so much in tournaments and why he is A plus tier. The next survivor I have in A plus tier is Toy Merchant. She is really, really strong in my opinion. But Toy Merchant is also really specific to you. She's more of a specialist type of character. On some maps, like Church, for example, she's not very good. But on maps like Chinatown and Eversleeping and Moonlit, even Lakeside to a degree, she's really strong on those maps. Like on Chinatown, she's broken on that map. So if you are a really knowledgeable toy merchant that knows your spots, that uses her on the best maps, then she's really good because she can kite practically any hunter. And what does toy merchant do? She gets distance, and distance is what you want as a survivor in this meta, and she gets distance maybe better than any other survivor in the game right now. So the only issue with toy merchant is her skill is a setup type of skill. Unlike someone like Patient that can just use it, that just has it on them. Toy Merchant and Dancer, they have setup type of skills. But it does not take that long to set up, which is why she is still really strong. And her support is really good too, especially now that survivors can see the... Oh my goodness, the name is escaping me. They can see the... It's so bad. I've been doing this for too long. But the catapult that launches you in the air. Yeah, the catapult. All survivors can see the catapult. So you can intentionally just kite to the catapult, get the support. She's pretty good. And her support can definitely be big. So Toy Merchant is one of the best survivors in the game. Next, we have Little Girl. Little Girl cannot be used in Koa. So if you're wondering why you don't see her used in Koa, it's because she's not allowed. Little Girl on release was S tier. There's no doubt about it. I think she was quite possibly the best survivor in the game when she was released. She was very, very, very broken. They nerfed her. Now she gets out of the attachment on one hit, which obviously is a pretty decent nerf. But all in all, Little Girl is still really good. She's not the best kiter, but if you can do a decent kite on your own and then you can attach to a forward, a mercenary, it's a winning kite. And they just use their skill. It's a winning kite. So her support is good. She can teleport, she can rotate. So if it's a bad spawn, if you are going to get chased first and you don't want to take first chase as Little Girl, you can just teleport out, which is really good. So all in all, Little Girl is a really versatile character and she's really good. It just depends on your teammates and it depends on the user of the Little Girl. Which, obviously, all of these characters depend on the user. But I think, in a weird way, Little Girl more than others because, you can have those dumb little girls in rank. And they definitely make you tear your hair out because of them, how bad they are in attaching at the wrong times, how they really depend on other survivors to carry them. But if you have a good little girl on a good team, especially in VC, she's definitely one of the stronger survivors in the game. Next, we have Batter. Batter is my most hated survivor in the game by far. He's broken. He's toxic. His decoding debuff is not that bad. His scale is basically unlimited because he can always pick up the ball. It's 3 balls, but he can always pick up. He can cancel the cooldown on the ball for his harassment. So even if you make him waste one, he can still harass you. His vaulting speed and his pallet throwing speed, normal, and especially in rage mode, is uncounterable. You literally cannot hit him through the pallet. You cannot terror shock him. You cannot hit him through the window. Badger is, in my opinion, top 3 most broken and top 3 most toxic survivor in this game. His decoding debuff just kind of hurts him a bit, which is why he's not like S tier per se. And he's kind of like forward, but just worse than forward. So that's why he's more of an A+ tier survivor. But Badger is definitely one of the most broken characters in this game. There's no doubt about that. I really wish they would just delete that character with all my heart. Please delete this character. Next, we have Patient. Patient used to be S tier, A+, top of A+, but they did nerf his hook, and it was a pretty decent nerf. When he first came out, he was absolutely busted. He got way too much distance. Now, Patient is a really hard character to play, but if you are a skilled Patient, he's still one of the best kiters in the game. He's good against Breaking Will, for sure. He's good against Sculptor. He's decent against Dreamwish. He's only not good against Geisha, really. But everyone else, he's good against Bloody Queen. Every other hunter, he can kite pretty well. And especially on some maps, there's a lot of broken spots for Patient. Like in Lakeside, Small Boat, you can just go up it, etc. So Patient is definitely a good rescuer. No decoding debuff, no debuffs at all. Patient is definitely one of the best characters in the game. Next, we have Entomologist. When she first got buffed, 9 months ago, she was S tier. She was a really, really broken kiter. They did give her a good nerf, and now Entomologist is a really good character. She's a really, really strong kiter. She's a really, really strong support. And in VC, she becomes very, very strong. Entomologist is just one of the best, well-rounded characters in the game. She has no debuffs. And support and kiting is both really strong. She counters most hunters. She counters basically every hunter, especially Sculptor and Breaking Will. She counters basically every hunter except for Dreamwitch, Bloody Queen, and Bonbon. Every other hunter, you should have no problem with Entomologist. So she's definitely one of the best characters in this game. Next, we have Acrobat. Acrobat, when he first got buffed, was also S tier. They did give him a good nerf. To increase the ball cooldown to 10 seconds. To 12 seconds instead of 6. So now he's just a really, really strong A+ tier character. And flat out, Acrobat is what you would probably say is the best kiter in this game. That's why he's at the top of A+ tier. While these characters are both really good kiters, and you can look at Dancer, you can look at Painter, Perfumer, Cowboy. There's good kiters across this tier list, even down to Magician and Gardener. They're good kiters. Acrobat is just the best. In terms of pure kiting, he is the best kiter, and he can kite literally every hunter. He counters Dreamwitch, he counters Bloody Queen, he counters Bonbon, he can kite Sculptor, he can kite Breaking Will. That is why Acrobat is the S tier kiter, because he can kite every single hunter. So that's why you even see him get banned in tournament, because he's just that strong. And Acrobat is also a good rescuer, and he's also a decent support. So he can kite every hunter and can also support and rescue. He's borderline S tier, but definitely the top of A+. Next, we have Psychologist. Psychologist, it's really simple to see why she's good. She takes 3 hits, and she can heal you from across the map. She's good. It's really that simple to explain it. She hard counters hunters like Dream Witch and Bloody Queen, but she can kite literally every hunter in the game. So even Breaking Will, who she's probably the weakest against, she's not bad against. And a psychologist, if you die quick, you literally get rewarded for it, because when you get saved without Tie Turner, you are back at full health, which is absolutely broken. And the only way to make psychologists not broken would be to, when you die, they should remove all of your healing. You should not be able to be healed after you die. But as long as that's a thing, psychologists will always be broken and A+ tier. Now, before I get into S tier, I do want to put the tier of the newest survivor to come out. You guys may have not, you may have noticed that I haven't put Weeping Clown anywhere here. So, but I was saving him for now since he's the newest character. And for Weeping Clown, he's around here. He's a B+ tier. He's not great. He gets distance, which seems good, but he's just slow. He supports, but it's not good support. He harasses, but it's not good harassment. He's just like a decent kiter with okay harassment. He gets okay distance. He's not bad. He's just not great either. So he's about the B+ tier. You can use him if you want, but he's definitely nothing game changing. Now let's get into S tier. To finish this tier list, the first character I have in S tier is Mercenary. Mercenary has been S tier forever. He always will be S tier, no matter how many times they nerf him, because of the hit delay. He is the best rescuer in the game. There's no debate about that. He won't die early to any hunter. He'll always, if you chase him first, he has a decent chair, and he has 3 elbow pads, so he's going to get a lot of distance, which makes him a great kiter. There's not much else to say about Mercenary. He's just a really, really good rescuer. He's S tier. Next, we have Mechanic. She recently got nerfed. Before, Mechanic was the best character in the game, but they did nerf her decoding a bit. And because of that, she's a little bit lower on S tier, but she's still S tier. Her usage rate at times cannot be S tier. Sometimes it's like lower. But the only reason for that is Mechanic is a survivor that is weak, similar to Mind's Eye, similar to like Explorer. But so if you're going for a win, you usually don't want to play Mechanic, because if she gets found first, you're only going to tie. But Mechanic is a character that is the queen of tying. You will not lose if you have a Mechanic on your team usually. It's really hard to lose with a mech on your team, because even if she gets found first, she's decoding a whole cipher. If you play mech, as long as you don't let your bot get killed, it does not matter how long you kite. You will probably tie that game if no one else throws throughout the game. So Mechanic will always be S tier as long as her bot can decode on chair. Next in S tier, I have Priestess. Priestess is probably what I would call the most broken survivor in this game. I don't think I have to go in depth about Priestess. Most people know why Priestess is so broken. Her support is really strong. She's a good rescuer. She's a really good kiter. Her decoding debuff is not large at all. And on maps like Eversleeping, Chinatown especially, Hospital, she's still good on Lakeside. She's still good on Moonlit. She's good on Church. You can play her on every single map. Leo's. That's not Arms. She is very strong, and she's broken. Maybe the best survivor in the game on maps like Chinatown and Eversleeping. So Priestess is definitely S tier. There's no debate about it. She's really strong. Next in S tier, I have Seer. Seer was also probably the best survivor in the game, tied with Mechanic. He's he was by far the #1 ban in this game. You had to ban Seer. They did nerf Seer recently, and the nerf was actually pretty decent, nerfing the owl duration from 15 seconds to 8 seconds. They basically nerfed it in half. That's a pretty decent nerf for Seer, and that's why he's not, I would say, the best survivor, because that nerf did allow some hunters to not always have to ban him anymore. Like Breaking Will, for example, always had to ban Seer, but now after the nerf, you don't have to. Dreamwitch, you always had to ban Seer. After the nerf, you don't have to. So that's the only reason he's not the absolute best survivor in this game. But Seer is still the best support in this game. He's a good kiter, and he counters a lot of hunters. And the best survivor in the game is actually Forward. And Forward probably gets banned the most. Top 3 most for sure. But really recently, in the newest tournaments, in the newest KOA, especially in China, he's probably banned more than any other survivor in the game. And that's because Forward is the #1 most game-changing survivor in Identity 5. And his rescuing, you know how I said Mercenary is the best rescuer? The funny thing is, Forward is actually better at rescuing than Mercenary. Because if he wants to not get hit, all you have to do is stun on the chair. If you want to wait out the time, you can come late. He is like Coordinator, because you go for the rescue, you get hit, you rescue, then you can give a stun after you got hit. It's the same duration as a cord gun. So he's literally Mercenary and Coordinator together as a rescuer, who are the 2 best rescuers. He's a great kiter. You cannot chase him early game. He's also probably the best support in the game. He's also the best harasser in the game. So you put all of that together, and you have the best survivor in the game currently. And the only counter to Forward really is excitement, which works. But the only thing about excitement is you are giving up your other traits. And it's only a one time every, 80 seconds. So if the Forward forces out the excitement for the next 80 seconds, he can do whatever he wants. So for that reason, Forward is the best survivor in the game. And that does it for this tier list. Before I end the video, I have been thinking about doing new videos on this channel, such as specific tier lists, like a rescuer tier list, a support tier list, a kiter tier list, a decoder tier list. So like in a kiter tier list, for example, it will only be kiter characters, and you have acrobat at like S tier in that tier list. Well, this is an overall tier list. I think it would be really helpful and informative, because I could go a lot more in depth about these characters and what makes them good. So if you were interested in those types of videos, please let me know in the comments below, so I can decide if I want to do those videos. I've also been thinking about doing breakdowns, like an acrobat breakdown, a patient breakdown, where the video is centered around a specific character and their pros, their cons, their best maps, the hunters they counter, the hunters that counter them. Same for hunter breakdowns. That was also an idea I've been thinking about doing. So let me know if you're interested in that. And lastly, more just competitive, me reviewing tournament footage, KOA footage, and kind of going more in depth and about why players are doing what they're doing, why teams are picking what they're picking. I kind of want to transition my channel more to that type of content. So if you are interested in that, please let me know in the comments below. Or if you just want to continue me to do gameplay, that's also good as well. I just want feedback on that. But that does do it for my Survivor tier list. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.